The meeting will be called to order. We'll start with the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you for those that are here tonight and for those that may be watching via the internet. We have no translation needs, so we'll go on to approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion for the?
I motion.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? So carried. Have we got any public comment for tonight? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to board member discussion. I do not have anything on the legislative report tonight. I did look at the WASDA legislative, and the only thing it had there was a bulletin for the, if we happen to see our legislators, to work on them on the share of money for new facilities to help that formula, or to increase that formula. So, which I hope that we could get a meeting set up with our legislators here in the next few months. Any other discussion for board discussion? Okay, and I'll go on to student representative report. Sebastian.
All right, so Janie won't be here today, but she wanted me to let you guys know that she's working on a new project. It's called Read a Secret and Leave a Secret. The whole purpose of this is to help students not feel alone. She will follow up to this in our next meeting. But for my student representative report, I just planned on doing an overview of the 4th of July. So the 4th of July represents the day when the U.S. gained its independence from Great Britain. Here in Othello, we hold a giant event to celebrate this spectacular moment in history. My morning started out with me participating in the parade. My mom signed up our family to walk under McCain's. But I passed out foam potatoes and candy, which was really weird. And I was exhausted towards the end until it was so hot, but at least I was able to see familiar faces in the parade. It was really amazing to see representation from our sports team and various groups under the school district. So when I got home, our family had a huge barbecue and we just spent plenty of time together. Later in the afternoon, I went to Lions Park at the event center, as I call it. The lines at the stalls were huge, and I absolutely refused to wait 30 minutes for a churro line, so I just spent the rest of the time with my friends. So I went home before sunset to set out fireworks with my family. It was truly a marvelous and beautiful sight to see under the night. I'd like to thank all the board of directors for giving me this opportunity to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Sebastian. Next, we'll go on to C1, required approvals. Do I have a motion for the?
I motion.
I
First.
second.
Got a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So carries. Accounts payable warrants 2.
I motion to approve.
I'll second it.
And I will be abstaining from this vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So carries. Superintendent, informational items.
Yes, I'd like to invite Executive Director of Business, Amy Suarez. Amy's going to share with you a description of the audit process in school districts in the state of Washington, just a brief overview, and then provide a report on the Othello School District performance in 2 of those audits this school year.
Hi there. I'm usually here talking about budgets, but today I'm talking about the audit. Let's see if I can. So the first thing I want to do is kind of explain what happens during audit. I don't know, maybe Seb doesn't know what do we do in an audit. So I kind of wanted to go through the cycle. And I found this on the Washington State Auditor website, and I thought it was a pretty good chart, so kind of wanted to go through it. So the first thing that happens is we make a plan. The auditor usually calls me around January and says, hey, what is your availability? Do you have any plans? When do you want to do the audit? And it's usually the sooner the better. Let's get it done so that it doesn't interfere with the budget process. Like 4 years ago, I was like, I'm gonna be a new grandma, please don't come the first week of May. But this year, it was like, nope, just come as soon as you can and let's get it done. So then what happens is they have a portal, they're able to download some reports off of Skyward, and they analyze the information, and then the auditor has their objectives of what they're looking for and what they're gonna focus. Every year, it's a new focus. And then they send me a request, and we get to work. So it's hundreds of requests. We need this, we need that, and it's providing all the information that they request as soon as we can. Once they receive all the information, it's a lot of back and forth, and they analyze the information, and then they give us our audit report. The audit report, there's three different types of levels of reporting. I think, well, I should say the worst one is a finding, and that's when there's questionable cost and a lack of internal controls. The second one is a management letter, and then the lowest level is a recommendation. So they look at all the things that you do, and if they see something and they think, oh, you know, you could do better on this, and then they give you a recommendation, and we move forward with implementation. It's a lot of back and forth, but as I like to say, we use it as a learning opportunity. So we're always asking for their advice. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And we take all of that into consideration.
So Amy, are a lot of these like reimbursements is what they're questioning, or?
We're going to go into that in the
Oh,
next
okay.
slide and kind of look at what some of the things that they ask for.
Uh-huh. Okay.
So here, there's two different types of audits. The first one that I'll be talking about is a financial statement and the federal single audit. And what they're looking for on those is our financial statements, our F1, what we call the F-196, and that's the year end. Those are the reports that are due at the end of every fiscal year. And it shows all our expenses, all our revenues, the ins and outs of all our funds. They're looking to see, making sure that we're following the accounting guidelines. We have fair presentation of the GAAP rules, that I'm completing the notes to the financial statements, and that I have all the backup documents. They're looking at our compensated absences as well. All our adjusting entries, what we call journal entries that we do into our system. They look at all our bank accounts and making sure that we're reconciling not only to our local bank accounts, but also to the county treasurer, making sure that every dollar is accounted for. We also have to, every year, after we complete our year end, we have to do our CFA, our Schedule of Expenditures of Federal Awards, and that is the document that they use to determine which of the federal grants that we're going to audit. And then they take an overall risk assessment, and they look at our ACHs and our EFTs, and I think they called me directly and they asked me a whole bunch of questions, and they do an assessment. I think they even called the superintendent, and just kind of, you know, making sure that we're all following the guidelines. Every year, they look at our CFA and they determine which grants they are going to audit. This year, I think statewide, they were auditing the COVID, the ESSER grants. So the two that they picked was our ESSER 2, and then the other one, if you search this word in the state of Washington, the Emergency Connectivity Fund, the ECF program, you'll see that there's been a lot of, it's been in the news a lot as something that the auditor's been really finding a lot of findings in a lot of our school districts. The COVID money that they audited accounted for 38% of our federal grants during the 21-22 school year. They're looking to make sure that we have effective internal controls, and you'll see that I use that a lot because internal controls is finance. We have to make sure that we're very sure that our internal controls, and we'll go into more in that. They're also looking to make sure that we're in compliance with all the federal regulations and all their requirements, and making sure we're purchasing under their guidelines and the amounts. I went ahead and put the CFR number there if anybody wanted to see what else they looked into. And the reason that they chose the COVID is it is considered high risk. In the past, it's usually been Title I or our special ed funding. Okay, so in the next slide, it's what were our results? What are the outcomes? So happy to report that there was no findings, there was no significant deficiencies, no material weaknesses. And something that I haven't seen in our reports, in several years, is that the Othello School District qualifies as a low-risk auditee under the uniform guidance. So we're very excited about that sentence. That means that we haven't had no findings in the previous 2 years, consecutive years. Our last finding actually was in 18-19. So we had a clean audit in 19-20 and 20-21, so that's why we're now low risk. They noted no internal control deficiencies and no questioned costs. The next slide comes from from the audit report, and it's just an audit highlight. And the reason that I put this in there is I wanted to give a shout out to Rigo, our IT director, for his assistance in the ECF funding. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of emails, a lot of research that we had to do with that grant, and I just wanted to thank him publicly for all the help that he did in helping me gather all that information. Okay, the next, once that federal audit is done, that one every year, we have that one done every year, and it's due by May 31. Every other year, we also have a second audit. That second audit is called an accountability audit. It's every other year, but it goes back 2 years. They're auditing 2 years. So what they're looking for here is the use of restricted funds for our professional learning. So one of the things that they're looking at. So the state gives us 3 days for our certificated staff for professional learning. And of the 3 days, 1 has to be for SEL or equity and inclusion. And so they want to see, how are you tracking this? What are your accounting guidelines? How much of it did you use? And then the other 2 are district directed and tracking that as well. The other thing that they're looking at is, did they use it on allowable activities? And there's a lot of RCWs and a lot of guidance in making sure that the professional development learning that the certificated staff are using it for follows the RCWs. Also, at the end of the year, whatever we don't use for Activity 34, we have to set it aside. So if our fund balance is 10 million, we know that if 200,000 was for professional learning that didn't get used, we have to restrict it and make sure that that's set aside for them. So they're looking at that too. Sub-Fund 1, they also audit that. That was created in 18-19 for transparency of our local levy LEA money. What they're looking for is making sure that we're using it for enrichment activities. It's per our levy LEA plan, and that we're tracking it appropriately. They also reviewed our supplemental contracts, our accounts payable, everything that we paid with credit cards, with checks, everything that came through. They looked at payroll, some payroll transactions. They go through the list and they say, I want to look at this, 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 and that. And you have to provide them all the backup. They also reviewed the ASB fund at all our schools, and they made sure that we're following the Open Public Meetings Act, and then they overall look at the financial condition of the district. So, what was the scope of the audit? Like I said, it's for 2 years, so it was for school year 2021 and 21-22. So imagine if you're working in the 22-23 school year, you're working on the 23-24 budget, and then you're having to think back for 2 previous years. So it gets kind of crazy. They want to make sure that we're adequately safeguarding the public resources from fraud, loss, and abuse. They make sure that we're complying with the state and federal laws and also our own procedures. If they see a procedure that we have in our board policy, we have to make sure that we're following those as well. And again, they look for internal controls. Do we have segregation of duties? Are we being effective and efficient in our operations? Is our reporting reliable? All the reports that we provide for external and internal use? And then making sure that we're in compliance with all applicable laws and regulations. So what were the audit results? Again, no findings. Something else that we're super excited about. In the areas selected, the district operations complied in all material aspects with applicable state laws, regulations, and our own policies. And we provided adequate controls over the safeguarding of public resources. The audit highlight, just wanted to point out the second bullet is in our last accountability audit, they brought something, a couple of things to our attention, and we immediately took care of them. And they just wanted to say thank you for that. So the next slide is the cost. There is a cost to have our audits every year. The financial audit this year is about $21,000, and then the accountability audit is about $14,300. Some of the things that we do, or that I make sure we do, is to help keep the cost low, is that we make sure that we're available. If we have to work on the weekends to get stuff to them, that's what we do. That's what I do, making sure that everything that they request is in there. So the process is I'm the only one that has access to the portal to the state auditor, because everything goes into a secured site. So all my requests come to me, and then I have to make sure that they're going into the portal. So it's kind of a process. There's weekly communication. We have Zoom meetings with our auditors. They give us an update. They make sure that we're on track, and they give us all the information, any other information that they may need, so that we can give them. We always try to give them the information they requested as soon as we can. And then we use Zoom meetings, and that's why we're able to keep our travel cost to $550. Something that's not on here, but I want to give a big shout out to my finance team, because it takes a village to get this audit done. I want to say thank you to them for their hard work. They are the final eyes of every transaction. Everything that comes through them, they're looking at the lens of what would the auditor say with this past audit. And when something doesn't look right or something's missing, they're on the phone, they jump into action and making sure that we're staying in compliance. Information changes all the time. Like OSPI all of a sudden says, hey, we're gonna do a sub-fund 1, or we're gonna change to NCS codes, where there's always things changing. So very thankful that they research with me, we collaborate, and we put things into place as requested by OSPI. And if anybody wants to see the full reports, they're both available on the website, and you can see not only our school district but other districts as well. It's personally, I go in there and look at other people's audits, because that's how I learn too. It's like, why did they get a finding? Kind of help us not to get a finding. So, any questions?
No, but I think this is the most thorough report since I've been on that was ever given to us for us to understand, because we don't understand those things if we're not told. And you and your team, Enrico, I mean, we're so
I would
appreciative of you, and look at where we end up. The
I
top.
always tell our auditor that we try to be 1% better. So this is one. Last year I gave you guys the report. This year I'm doing it 1% better and giving you guys a presentation.
Well, I think that you learn and we learn, and the public learns, and so it's really good.
Great. I
Yeah.
just want to compliment
Yes.
you and your team on
Yeah.
a wonderful job. I know it's not an easy job sometimes. Like you said, they're changing too, their rules all the time, and
Yes.
you're constantly chasing them to make sure that we're always in compliance, and to come out with An audit report like this is
Yeah.
just spectacular, and it's
Fabulous.
great,
We're super excited.
and it's good that we could use it to show the public that their funds are being
Yes.
properly taken care of and used.
Totally.
Thank you.
I would like to make a comment about you, Amy, about your growth, because I know that when you first started as the executive director, not speech, but presentation was something where you felt a little bit, it wasn't your strong suit, right? And you felt a little bit uncomfortable, but this presentation was good and very thorough, so it just speaks a lot to see your growth.
Thank you, Daria. That means a lot. I actually didn't lose sleep last night.
Good. You gave a shout out to your team and to Rigo, which I think we all echo as well, but I want to make sure we give a shout out to you because you led that whole team and obviously had to be the one directing and sending all the information and tracking it down and making sure, and you obviously did an amazing job. That's fantastic.
Thank you again.
I'd like to make a side comment. Oh, oh no, you're good. But thank you for all for your hard work. It's really amazing to see that your hard work and determination and leadership really led your team to accomplish this giant presentation that I pretend that I actually know what it is, but I really don't in the end. I'm not ready to be an adult. Financial statements, audits, everything. Oh,
Whenever you want to come learn more, Seb, just come on over.
oh I will. Thank you.
So is there any more under the superintendent?
Nope, that's it for this evening. Thank you. Thanks, Amy.
Okay. We'll go into policy review. We have a few more of the 5,000s out for the first reading. Okay, and then we'll go on now to upcoming events. Next meeting, July 24th. Then we have in August, the 14th and the 28th. And then school starts again on the 31st of August.
Wow, that went fast.
It's, yeah.
Question about upcoming events. Is there going to be any new teacher orientation or all staff orientation that we're going to need to be a part of that we could put on our schedule or anything like that?
Yeah, we'll make sure and get those in the calendar for the next one, and
Okay.
we could send out an email to the board maybe later this week, giving you
Okay.
those dates. Good call.
Side statement. So I'm gonna be absent on August 14th, so I'll be with my dad in New York City, taking a vacation. But I'm happy to say I'll only be missing one meeting instead of two.
Thank you for the heads up,
Yeah.
Sebastian.
Is there any other dates that need to be added to that calendar for the board? Okay, seeing none, we'll go on to board self-assessment of the meeting. Great presentation.
I agree, it was a great presentation. I also would like to thank Sebastian for not only bringing his report, but information from Jaden as well to the meeting.
Short and sweet.
Is there any more? Okay. Going on. Time to adjourn the meeting. Thank you for joining us.